So my parents were split up for 10 whole years. For the whole 10 years, my mother kept on trying to come back. Not because she was in love with him. What I really want to bring out of this story is this. Why do you want to come back and be married to a man you hate so much? Why? And I'll tell you guys why. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Summer, and to all of you that keep coming back, hello and welcome back. Quick reminder, if you've never subscribed, just to remind you to click that red button there that says subscribe. After that, click the bell sign. That way you get notification whenever I upload the new videos. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing about how my mother hated my father so much, but she wanted to remain married to him. Yeah. No, it's one of those videos where I share my life story, you know, my life growing up, what happened at my house and things like that. And hopefully somebody can learn something from it. Maybe not. What surprises me is how some people take offense. And I don't understand how you're going to take offense from me sharing the story of what happened at my house. I made a video previously and I shared about what happened at my house, and I said my parents are Igbos, and some Igbos took offense. And I'm like, I'm not talking about what happened at your house, I'm talking about what happened at my house. You know, because we're the same tribe, it doesn't mean the exact same thing that happened at your house happened in my house. We still have our differences in the culture between one village to the other, one state to the other. So it's my story. Like, you can't tell me how to share my own personal story. So that's it. Before I say anything else, let me actually talk about how my parents met. I'm going to share it according to what my father and my mother have told us. It's not like now where you be like, I saw a girl, you know, we fell in love and there was courtship and all of that, and then you're waiting for the guy to propose. I think their style was actually better. I think so. My father was up to the age to marry, and he was already like kind of like maybe saying to people that he wants to get married, and somebody suggested I'd be like, oh, there's this king and he has loads of daughters. So my grandfather, who is my mother's father, was a king. He had loads of children, you know. My grandfather's family was respectable family. This is the royal blood. Like, a lot of men in those days would love to be married into a royal blood. So my father then went to his village, to my grandfather's village, and went to his compound to say, you know, introduce himself. Believe it or not, this is how it was so normal. For this is very normal way to marry in those days. I would love to marry one of your daughters. My grandfather had, I think he had 4 wives, but I only saw 3. The oldest wife was already dead before I was born. I don't know much. I never met his oldest wife. My grandmother and my step grandmother lived kind of like close proximity, but they were like 5-10 minutes walk from the palace. And then there was the newest wife lived right there at the palace. It's a long story. I think I'll make a separate video for that. Father went to my grandfather and said, I would love to marry from any of your daughters. And my father went with a bicycle. And in those days, oh my god, it's funny now, but like in those days it was a big deal to have a bicycle. Not just to have a bicycle, but a brand new bicycle. So my father went, I don't know why I'm laughing. My father went with his bicycle, and it was a brand new bicycle, and that was something that showed that he was a man that was doing well, you know. My grandfather then sent somebody with my grandfather's bicycle to my grandmother's house to go drop the bicycle at my grandmother's house and tell my mother to bring it back to him. The plan is to get my mother to appear, and my father can have a look and see if he likes her. So she returned the bicycle, and my father got the chance to have a look at her. He looked at her, he liked her, and he said, yes, I'll take that one. Can you, like, when I talk about it now, right, I just think to myself how different life has become, like really, really different. And that was it. And they got married. It's then hard to say, were they in love with each other? Was there ever love? You know, I don't know. Like, you know, the man has to pay a bride price. Bride price is such a big deal in my culture. My village, my house, what they practice. The culture I was brought up in. Because somebody's going to leave me a comment and be like, oh, that's not all Igbo culture. I haven't said so. The culture that I was brought up in, it may be different at your house. That's fine. I'm sharing my culture that I was brought up in. You know, don't forget that sometimes it differs from even from village to village. So you're not from my village, you can't tell me that it's not true. You know, this is what I don't understand. So the way it is in my culture, when a man pays your bride price, you know, there's this thing they will say "Akurubi sigi." Your head has been paid for. When a man has paid for your head, he paid for you. It's like buying stuff. I don't know what else to say. This is how I was told. This is how we were brought up. A man is going to pay for your head and you're going to be his. Women don't pay bride price. They got married and, you know, started having children and everything. But somehow along the line, the marriage went haywire. Like they started falling out. I remember all the fights and everything. I've made few videos about my parents and their fights. I think what happened was, you know, this young girl picked up to be married, and in those days you girls rarely question these things. You know, a man wants to marry you, you're delighted, yeah, I'm gonna get married, and you just see it as, you know, it is something to be proud of. I feel like my parents got married and it's just the normal thing. Like my culture, it may be changing a lot by now. I left Nigeria almost 17 years ago. How it was is, if a man, you know, do what you want to do business, you go to university, then build a house, get a car, you know, do all those things. Once you just do the next thing, get a wife. It's almost one of those, the necessities. Do this. It's not necessarily fall in love. Things are changing. I'm just saying, in those days, it wasn't necessarily fall in love and then find the love of your life. In those days, it wasn't find the love of your life. It was just marry. Well, I think it was just, father saw a girl he liked the features or whatever, and that's it. She was a young girl and everything was like, my husband says everything she did, you know. But I think this is how I feel about it when I think about my parents and their terrible marriage. I think as the years went by, my mother began to be an adult, and she began to find it difficult to say yes to everything he said, you know, because I'm going to be honest, I've made videos about my dad. My dad was a difficult man. I'm not going to come here and pretend. That's the fact. My father was a very, very difficult man. Initially, I think because my mom was young, she was kind of like going with whatever. But I think as she got older, she began to say no sometimes. That's how I would describe it. She began to get a bit like, no, it's not going to happen, because my father was so controlling. I have said it before, my father was so controlling with his children and with my mother as well. My culture, I say that again, my culture, a man being able to dictate was a sign that he was a man, you know. And I've talked several times about how sometimes don't be a man and just be human. Don't be a man or a woman, just be human. If you're telling a woman to do something and she said, no, I'm not going to do it, can you ask why? She could say, okay, I have a tummy ache, or my leg is sore. I'm just using that as an example, you know. But there are men that feel like, if I have said it, that's it. Like, we used to go home for Christmas, and my mother belonged to the village women's group, the singing group, something like that. And my mother had the voice for singing in those days. She was like the best singer. And if they had a fight or whatever, he could just decide, you're not going to go to the band today. They used to call them a band, and the whole of the band cannot function because my mother is their singer, like the lead singer. I remember as a child, we went home for Christmas, and this time my father was like, no, you're not going. And my mother was, you know, stayed at home. You know, the man just says it, that's it. The village women had to come and actually beg my dad for ages to let my mother go. Just think about that. They had to come and beg, all the women, and beg that please let her come. Finally, he let her go because the other women came and begged. Along the line, the marriage went haywire. Like, they had big fights. My father tried to kill my mother at least 3 times. I'm not going to go into all of that. The final attempt on her life, when she ran away, she ran to her people, she started living with her mother, she started living in her village. But there was so much stigma attached to that, because they will say, in my language, it's like the woman that was chased away. And it was not a nice name to have, status wise. You become the woman with that stigma, you know. I don't even know how to explain. I remember as a child, if we went home for Christmas and all these elderly women will see us, and somebody be like, we call somebody else and be like, do you not know those children? Oh, you don't know these children. Those are the children that their mother was chased away. And you hear them say, hey, where, when, oh. And they kind of look at you guys as the disadvantaged children, kind of a thing, like, oh, where, village women. We were the pity cases, you know. But anyway, so my parents split up for 10 years. This is another thing. Sometimes I make videos, people ask me questions, and when they ask me some questions, I realize they never really watched the last one. But my parents were split up for 10 whole years. For the whole 10 years, my mother kept on trying to come back. Not because she was in love with him, but because she wanted to regain her status as a married woman. She wanted to regain that status so much. There was so much she couldn't do. She couldn't be part of any women's group. She didn't belong in the women's group in her village because she is supposed to be a married woman in another village. So, and she cannot come to this village and be part of the meeting because she is one Yachurachu. She is the woman that has been chased away. So that stigma, you almost like, this is my culture. My culture. For those that are going to get angry, this is what happened. It may be changed now, I don't know, but that was what it was. You know, she didn't belong in this village, didn't belong in that village. So, you know, that stigma, it is not something that a real Igbo woman, that's still really traditional Igbo woman would want. You know, you would want to have a status of being called a married woman. So for 10 years, my parents were split up. But my mother never stopped to try to get reconciliation. And after 10 years, after, you know, she will go to the village, you know, getting people to speak on her behalf and keep talking. 10 whole years. 10 whole years. And my mother had to do all this, she had to kill a goat, which is not the first time. Some people have talked about killing of goats. It may not happen in your village, it happens in my village. That my mother will have to apologize, you know, for things, with a chicken or a goat or something. It happened at my house. Okay, not your house. It happened at my house. I have said it before. What I saw in my house, my family with my parents, my father was never wrong in every meeting. I'm not going to stay here and say my mother was an angel, but I would say that the way it happened in my culture, the culture that I grew up in, men are never told they're wrong. It's always the woman that had to apologize. Maybe it's changed now, I don't know, but that is how I grew up. You know, even when my father beat my mother up mercilessly, he has never ever had to apologize for beating her up. It happened at my house. You know, I've said it before, I'm going to share my stories. So if you're like, oh, it is my story, and I would share it. If it helps one person, that's fine. About 10 years later, reconciled. But the thing is this, you know, when I heard they were reconciled, I was already grown and gone. Like, I left home at the age of 17. There was nothing, like, the relationship was non-existent. But my mother got her status back of being married. My mother hated my father. Even after she came back, my mother hated him so much. My father is about 15 years dead. My mother still hates him. She still hates him. My mother came to visit me in Ireland, and she still talks about my dad. She still talks about him with so much hatred. I'm not coming here to judge her hatred. You know, she has a choice to hate him or not to hate him. What I really want to bring out of this story is this. Why do you want to come back and be married to a man you hate so much? Why? Why? And I'll tell you guys why. It wasn't because she loved him. It wasn't because she wanted to be with him. And I can tell you that there was nothing happening between them. I can guarantee you that they couldn't stand each other. Especially my mother couldn't stand him, you know. But she wanted to come back and be married to him. You know why? For status. She wanted to get her status back of being a married woman. She wanted to get rid of the stigma of being a chased away woman. And you see, luckily for her, like they would say, it happened before my father died. Because if my father had died and it never happened, she cannot come back in his absence. This is my culture. My culture, not your culture, not your village, not your family, my culture that I grew up in. If they didn't reconcile before my father died, she would not be able to come back in his absence. No. So luckily for her, they were able to sort that out because before my father died. My father was already married to somebody else, and she came, and they were two wives, you know. But she got her status back, but she hated this man so much. The main point I wanted to bring out is this. I was having a conversation on Facebook, and this person talked about how in the olden days, the marriages lasted forever. But these days, it doesn't last. You know, our mothers were better wives. Our mothers were better wives than we women of today. But you see, when I make this video, some people think, oh, I'm trying to take sides with the women or take sides with the men or take sides. It's not about taking sides. It's about thinking deeper into things. When I hear comments like that, you know, it's not the first time I've heard people say things like marriage lasted in the olden days, not these days, or women of these days are crap, you know, stuff like that. And I don't like to just argue like that. I don't like to just argue for the sake of arguing. Sometimes I want to use it as an opportunity to actually think and actually say, what is actually, how do I say, it's not like a research, but like question the whole thing in my head. Like, what is the difference? It's true, marriages used to last long in those days, basically forever. But these days, they don't. What is the reason? And I was searching deep within me to see if I could find the answers. Let me tell you what I think the answers are. Like I said, I'm not necessarily making my videos to take sides with men or sides with men. It's just about trying to understand things. You know, I'm a very curious thinker. I'm a deep thinker as well. I think things more than like really deep and try to And I can tell you that from my parents' marriage, a lot of people, if they're honest, a lot of our people, a lot of Nigerians even, or maybe even Africans, if we are honest, you would agree with this. The reason marriages lasted in the olden days was because women had no choice. There was just so much that was not in the favor of the women. For example, my parents were split up, but my mother was the one with a stigma, not my father. The men never had stigmas. She wanted to be married forever with him, not because she loved him, but because that was the only choice she had. But these days is different. Women don't reason like that anymore. Typically, in those days, women were just housewives. Women didn't really work. They had no properties. They had nothing. So they basically stayed at home, had the babies, look after the babies, and that was all they had. And when the marriage did end, the men would just chase them out, and they would be going empty-handed. A lot of women stayed because they didn't want to go empty-handed. But these days, women work. They have income. They have money. So when a marriage is so complicated and they feel like, when they feel suffocated in a marriage, these days, women do leave because there is a choice. I think about all the beating that happened and all the fights. My mother could have died. These days, you hear people say, if a man is violent against you, leave, save your life. They don't say it in those days. There was a time when even if a married woman was being beaten up, family will still put her in a car and drive her and leave her there and be like, no, he paid for your head, go back there. We've heard about women that the family sent back home and they still end up being killed. But there are actually families where the woman stays because it's like, my parents cannot financially refund the bride price. You know, some poor people are like that. You know, these are the reasons why I would say, your opinion, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I used to have a neighbor, and she met her husband in college, like in the university, and they were both university graduates. But they got married and she stayed at home and had the babies and minding the babies and all of that. But the man went to work, and as soon as her marriage started having problems within the first 10 years, you know the first thing the woman did? She dusted her certificate and she started working. And she got a maid and she started working. And she said, I want to start working because if anything happens, I have nothing. I've been at home all this while. He's the only one bringing all the income. The house belongs to him. She's like, no, I don't want to be left with nothing. You know, I need to start working. So now women are different from, you know, if our mothers had choice like we have these days, a lot of them would not have stayed. Now, I'm not here saying I'm supporting divorce. I'm saying divorce is a good thing. I am only analyzing what I think the difference is between those days and these days. The other day I was watching this thing on Facebook. I will actually show you guys. I'll show you guys this clip and then I'll come back and I say the rest of the things I have to say.
So I should be at fault when it's obvious he's the one cheating. For goodness sakes, mommy, I found condom in his pocket.
You found condom in his pocket? What about other women who find their husbands on top of another woman, yet they did not bring down the roof?
Mom, you know that's not possible. There is no way a woman will find her husband on top of another woman and not raise the roof.
He did. Not once, not twice did I find your father on top of another woman. Inasmuch as I wanted to react badly, I thought about you. That what will become of you if I should leave this marriage? Your future meant so much to me than a broken home. I had to stand my ground, to fight for my marriage. That my daughter, you never experienced a broken home. I want you to go back to your husband's house and fight for your marriage.
Mom, you went through all of this and I'm not even aware of it?
Because that fight is not a fight to be announced. Your victory will do the announcement. I want you to go back to your husband's house before he finds out that you are gone. For you not to regret anything.
Look at the woman. Stayed in her marriage because she wanted to raise a child. But these days, some women work hard and they have the money to raise children. See, she didn't stay in that marriage because she loved her husband. She didn't stay in that marriage for any other reason, but she stayed because she had no source of income to provide for her own child. But those things are changing these days. She stayed because she wanted to be able to, you know, she wanted this future for her child. It basically means that if she could provide that future for her child by herself, she would not have stayed. This is my analysis. Like I said, feel free to leave your opinion in the comment section below. But the thing is, in those days, I wouldn't say our mothers actually stayed because they were in love. They stayed because they had no choice. They stayed because of culture and Can I say this without some men getting offended? I'm going to say a lot of our women in those days were oppressed. Some of our mothers lived very sad lives. Oh, do you know something else? Traditionally, they used to do is, if a man felt like you were becoming too much trouble, right, your punishment used to be he's gonna get a new wife. And he gets a new wife, there's nothing you can do about it. And so women in those days would do anything to prevent their husband from getting a new wife. They would try to be them, you know, tolerate everything just because they don't want him to get a new wife. But some women will be like, you know what, let him get a new wife. Maybe I'm gonna have peace when he gets a new wife. And then sometimes when they get a new wife, now they have 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. And the women are trying to be the nicest ones so they can get the most attention. Think about that. Like, a lot of women today are going to say, no, I'm not going to be second wife. Like, apart from maybe if you're a Muslim and it's normal for you, but like most people that are like not Muslims will be like, no, I'm not going to be a second wife. But in those days, women had no choice. They have to stay there and take it. I think these are the main reasons why marriages lasted a long time in those days, because women had no choice. Once more, I didn't say it's a good thing to be divorced. I'm not saying no, that's not what I'm saying. Marriage is a beautiful thing. Hopefully people find the right partners and they actually are in love and all of that. And I am in support of marriages lasting as long as forever, especially for the sake of the children, because I experienced it. It's not a nice thing for children. But I'm just analyzing. All this video is doing is analyzing the difference between those days and these days. And I think the biggest difference between those days and these days is that women are now raised to actually be financially independent compared to in those days. There are still some places where they're not. I know a lot of women in Nigeria that I know that are in marriages because they have no other option. You know, if I leave, I'm going to leave empty-handed, because the man owns everything. The house is his, everything belongs to the man, because most women stay at home and just, you know, look after their children. Nowadays, the woman is working, the husband is working, and she finds out he's having an affair. She's gonna be like, no, you're not gonna do that, you know, blah blah. In those days, they didn't say anything. Like now, especially in Western society, where husband and wife can actually buy a house together and, you know, they own things together. If it ends, they can be like, oh yeah, we're going to split it this way or that way or that way. But in my traditional way, it was never split. It was, everything was the man's. What they used to do in those days is chase the woman out. That's it. With nothing. They go completely empty-handed. You're not even allowed to go with children. The only way you can go with a child is if that child is still maybe under a certain age. They may be like, okay, with the child and breastfeed the child. When the child is old enough, send the child back. And the women in those days that were chased away had no choice. You're chased away, you just go like that. And they say, take this child. When the child is old enough, bring the child back. They will honestly go, raise the child and send the child back. The women, the culture oppressed women in the past. So yeah, I have heard a lot of time people saying in olden days the marriage lasted so long, and I decided to actually think deeper about it. And when I talked about my parents' marriage, I just thought to myself, I think this is why it lasted long, not because it was a happy marriage, but because a lot of women stayed because they had no choice. And I can guarantee you that if our mothers and mothers and mothers before us were to have choice like we do today, I don't think a lot of them would have stayed. And so men get offended when you say these things. Sometimes I feel like you're not in the position to get offended because you're not a woman, and you're never going to, especially as a Nigerian man, you're never going to really experience what it is like to be a female child and grow up in a culture that is like that. You know, it's always sometimes not easy not to think about how something affects somebody else. The man is unfaithful and people tell the wife to stay there, and then he sleeps around until he brings some STDs or whatever home. You know what I mean? But these days a woman can say, you know, you're going to think about what you're going to do. If you're going to keep being unfaithful, it's over. But in those days, women never said when it was over. It was only men that said when it was over. Another thing I wanted to mention is power. There is something about power. Like sometimes people can get power drunk. Sometimes, let's be honest, it's very hard for a lot of people to remain humble when they are the ones in power. There is a more likelihood of oppressing somebody if you have the power to do that. Because our culture gave the men more authority, the men had more privilege than women according to the culture, and some men did abuse that. You know what I mean? Not all men. There were some men even in those days married one woman and never married more than one. But a lot of men just kind of like, sometimes it's just the power. Whoever is in power will abuse it. The same thing, like nowadays there are a lot of Nigerian women in the Western society, and maybe the woman earns more than the man, and some, not all, some women abuse this power and be like, you know, I'm the income earner, you have no job, and then the next thing they be like, oh, I'm done with you, I want another man. So women do that, not all. You know, being the one with the power can actually intoxicate people, and people can end up abusing the power. Like I always say, my opinion may be wrong. That's why there's a comment section. Leave your opinion. Hopefully we can all leave our opinions respectfully and maturely. And like I always say, if you anyone that curses me out in my comments, if I see the comment, I will delete and I will block the person, because there is no need for that. We're all adults. We should act like, you know, we should act like adults. So leave your opinion in the comment section below. Why do you think marriage lasted long in those days? What do you think is the reason why it's different? Your opinion may be completely different. Feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And with that, I'm just gonna say thank you all for watching. Until the next time, guys. Bye bye. Bye.
It's goodbye, friends, and goodbye, folks.